accepted.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to this educational journey in 1932, where we will learn how OAuth 2.1 works through live examples. Let me introduce myself. My name is Julien Topçu, and I will be your guide during this cinematographic experience that was made possible by the Shadow Studios, which is in fact a French consultancy company. And in the Grand Budapest Hotel, I'm playing the role of the security manager. I have selected for you some highlights that illustrate well the main principle of OAuth. As you've seen during the opening, we had one day two guests in a fight, and it happened because one of the guests found the other squatting his room. Unfortunately, this is a frequent problem we have that tarnishes the reputation of the palace. To explain you why we have that kind of security issue, I need to explain first how the hotel is organized. On one side, you have the private spaces. You can find there the guest rooms, the Mendes bakery, which is really famous, as you've seen as well during the opening, and the office of the manager, Gustave. On the other side, you have the lobby. This is a public space. This is where we are welcoming all the guests and all the visitors. And to secure the entrance to the private space, Gustave has installed a code lock on the single door between those spaces. He gave the code to all the employees and all the guests of the hotel. Unfortunately, the code is unique. So it means that everyone has the same code, and it never expires. So sometimes we have all guests coming back to town, and without having any reservation, they go back to the hotel, they remember that we gave them a code, they try it, it works. That's why we have that squatter problem. So, why I'm talking about that? Because here we have a small problem of revocation. Since once we have given a credential to someone, we have no mean to get it back in that case. In fact, there is a mean, but this is not pretty convenient. Because what we can do is just generate a new code each time someone checks out from the hotel. But we are in 1932, we have 400 guests, and people are checking in and checking out every 30 minutes. So let's imagine notifying so many people every 30 minutes, that's a nightmare. So the reason why I'm talking about that, and that particular problem, is because we have exactly the same problem on the web today. Here I'm taking the example of Facebook, because if you know me, I like to hit Facebook a bit when we talk about security. And here, this is one feature that has been decommissioned in 2016 that helps you to import your contact from your email providers and convert them as Facebook friends. So here you have some kind of dark age email provider, but let's say this is Gmail, right? So how at that time Facebook was proceeding to retrieve your contact from your email provider? by using the safest way we have on the internet, asking you directly for your email and your email password here. And they say, don't worry, we won't store your password. OK, but just 2 years later, they just had a little bug, but they were just logging in clear the password of the user in their monitoring system, but that happened to everyone, right? So here, what is the revocation problem? So let's imagine that Facebook is not malicious. I know it's hard, but let's imagine that. So you use that feature, they import some contact for you, and you thought that it would have been a one-shot process, but they keep continuously import your contacts. There is no mean on the Facebook interface to force Facebook to forget your password. So the only mean you would have to revoke the access of Facebook is to generate a new Gmail password, right? That's annoying because you will have to learn a new password. And also, if you want to keep the other integration working on the same mechanism, maybe automatic import inside LinkedIn, you will have to backport that change everywhere. That's a nightmare. And this is one of the reasons why OAuth has been invented, to deal with that kind of revocation problem. So to explain you how OAuth fixed that, let's go back to the hotel and with our squatter problem. I need first to put some words of vocabulary. So remember, what people were trying to access in the scenario was the rooms. So let's call the rooms the resources. The Grand Budapest Hotel, I mean the company, is the one who owns the rooms, so that's the resource owner. The hotel, so the building, is where you can find physically the rooms. This is the resource server. And the guests are the clients. Those are the people who try to access the resources, the rooms. So we decided to now distribute temporary and personalized access codes. Personalized means that each guest will have its own code, so it will be easier to revoke someone without having any impact on the other. And temporary because we don't want that code to be still usable after the end of the reservation of the guest, right? To avoid the squatter problem. So we were wondering what can be both temporary and personalized. In the case of hotel booking, in fact, it was quite easy to find. The booking reference number, because it uniquely identifies your booking, and once your reservation has ended, it doesn't mean anything more, right? So we are in 1932. What's the process to book a room? So people have to call us, and then we will send the booking reference number by mail, physical one. With that booking reference number, the guest can come to the hotel at the beginning of his stay, and he can open the code lock with that number. And it will automatically expire at the end of his reservation. That booking reference number is what we would call the authorization code. And it fixes our squatter problem. Unfortunately, there are so many security issues in that hotel. Let me introduce you to Dimitri, which is one of the VIPs of the hotel. One day, he came really upset, and he was complaining about the fact that someone has charged for pastries he never ordered for on his bathtub. So you have to know that our VIPs are able to open bathtubs, so it's a kind of account, where they can, charge everything on that, and they will just pay at the end of the stay. And here, someone embezzled the bathtub of Dimitri. So we made some investigation to find from where it came. And in fact, it came from our pastries. Because remember, I said that they're really famous, and they're really in high demand. So we had the idea about offering a new service to our VIPs. And now when they're roaming around in town, they can call us to ask for delivery of the pastry of their choice. But since we are not a food delivery company, we made a partnership with Uber Eats that you might know. OK, but I have to say that the process we had at that time to order a pastry was really naive. Because, in fact, Dimitri just had to call Uber Eats on the phone and say, I would like to order pastry. And the thing is, on the other side, Uber Eats employees, they don't know Dimitri, right? But they have to make sure he's a VIP of the hotel. So at that time, they were asking directly for his account number and his password, and it was OK for everyone that Dimitri could give his credentials. But that day, unfortunately, it was a malicious employee on the phone. And that person, right after, called Gustav, the manager of the hotel, claiming he was Dimitri, that would like to place a huge order. And Gustav, because he wants to make sure this is really Dimitri on the phone, asked for his password and his account number, and here they are, because that guy just stole Dimitri's credential right before. And Gustav doesn't have any means to figure out this is not really Dimitri on the phone, right? It has been fooled. So you have to know that each time you give your password to someone or an application, that person or that application is able to impersonate yourself. And that's way too dangerous. So you should never do that. So here we have fixed the problem by implementing a new process to order pastries. In a way that we will stop divulging the username and the password of the user to the third party, which is here RubberHit. How does it work? So now when Dimitri calls RubberHit, he knows that he must no longer give his credentials, because that's dangerous. We also asked RubberHit employees to no longer ask for any password. It's forbidden. But they still don't know Dimitri, right? And they still need to make sure he is a VIP of the hotel. So the only means they have is to work with someone they trust in the Grand Budapest Hotel. In that case, it will be Gustav, because Gustav is the manager. He has a manager, he has a contract with RubberHit. So what they do, they put Dimitri on hold, and then they call Gustav and say, there is someone here claiming this is Dimitri. Can you make sure this is really him? And confirm me that he is a VIP, and then call me back at that specific number, please. OK. So then they transfer Dimitri on the call with Gustav, and we have a direct communication between Dimitri and Gustav. And they hang up, right? So now Gustav has to make sure that Dimitri is the one he claims to be. So it will ask for his account number and his password. But for Dimitri, this is OK, because he knows Gustav. He is the manager of the hotel. He is the one responsible to handle the account here. So if something goes wrong, he will be responsible for that. And since we are in the domain of the hotel, it's OK for Dimitri to give his credentials. Gustav there will check that this is really him, and then he will put Dimitri on hold and calls back RubberHit at the specified number to give the confirmation. That process is what we call the authentication by third party. Here we have two people that doesn't know each other, but they need to work together, Dimitri and RubberHit. And they rely on a third party they trust to be able to work together. That third party here is Gustav, which has a new role, the authorization server. So the role of the authorization server is to authenticate and protect the end user, Dimitri. Why does he protect the end user? Because in the process you just have discovered, he never discloses the password of the user. It stays behind the authorization server and the end user, right? And he's also there to confirm that the accesses of the end user to the third party, which is RubberHit, saying, OK, he's really a VIP, so you can proceed. But that's not the end of the story, right? Because the aim is to deliver a pastry which is inside the Mendo's bakery, behind the code lock. So it means that RubberHit's delivery person needs a code. So in fact, when Gustav calls back RubberHit at the number they specified, he also gives them another number, which uniquely identifies the order and which has a little lifespan. And with that code, they will be able to open the code lock. But for security reason, that order number, authorization code, will be usable for 1 hour. After 1 hour, if the delivery person didn't show up at the bakery, he won't be able to open the door. Because we don't know if Dimitri, after 1 hour, he still wants a pastry or something like that. Maybe something goes wrong for some security reason. OK, you will have to do the whole process all over again if the authorization code has been, expired. So now they have that code. They can call Dimitri back and say, OK, what would you like? A courtesan, this is the name of the pastry. And with the authorization code, they are able to open the code lock and deliver the pastry. OK. In that process, you can see that here, Robert has a temporary access to the pastry, and they never had the credentials of Dimitri. So the role of the authorization server is to distribute temporary accesses to the third party. To sum up, here, the bar tab and the pastries were the things we try to access. So there are the resources. Dimitri is as well the resource owner and the end user. The resource owner because the bar tab and the pastry belong to him, and the end user because he's the one who performed the action. Here is the one who ordered a pastry. The hotel is still the resource server, the order number, the authorization code, Gustav, the authorization server, and Robert the client. Maybe that part is a bit confusing. Why Robert is the client and not Dimitri? Because, in fact, Dimitri can take his legs and go to the bakery to order pastry. But this is not what he does. He's lazy. He rather likes someone to offer him the service of delivering the pastry. So that's why here he's only the end user. The end user delegates the handling of resources to a third party, which is the client. On the other end, the client, here Robert, wants to offer a service for the user. And in order to do that, he has to get the access on the resources. So that's why here, this is a client. This is the one who really accesses the resources. So he's client of resources from the resource server on behalf of the end user to offer him a service. So let's go back to our Facebook and Google integration dilemma here. What is the imposter problem here? If you give your password to Facebook, yes, they will be able to retrieve your contacts, but they can also send mail on your behalf, right? And no one will notice. So it's way too dangerous to give your email password to Facebook. So here, we will implement the workflow we just discovered between Facebook and Google. But you have to know that they never did that, right? But we'll do that for the exercises to make sure you understood how it works. We have several actors there. And so remember, you are the one who tried to import your contacts inside Facebook. So what's your role? What is your role? Sorry? The end user and also the resource owner. The contacts are the thing we try to access. So there are the resources. Where are the contacts? They are inside Gmail. So Gmail is the resource server. Facebook. Facebook is the one to who you delegate the import of your contact to convert them as Facebook friends. So Facebook is the client. And the thing is that you don't really have a Gmail account. You have a Google account, right? That can be usable on several Google products, such as Google Drive, Google Docs, and so on. And they have a special website for that, which is account.google.com. So here, Google, what's his role? The authorization server. So if we apply the process there, now, you ask Facebook to import your contacts. And Facebook knows that they must no longer ask for your credential, right? So the only means they have to authenticate you and to make sure that you have really a Google account is by redirecting you to the website of Google. By doing that, it's like asking Google, can you authenticate that guy? OK. So now, Google will display you a front-end, a login form, and you have here to give your credential. But that's OK, right? Because you are on a Google website asking you for a Google password. So you can give your credentials. If it matches, Google will redirect you back to Facebook, and in that redirection, it will give the authorization code. And with that authorization code, Facebook will be able to retrieve your resources. You can see here that your credential will be kept between you and Google, and Facebook will never have your real password. Instead of that, if you have an authorization code, which is temporary, it will have only 1 hour to use that, and after 1 hour, it's no longer usable. Okay? But in fact, it's a bit more complicated than that, because if you stay with that last step, you will have a lot of security hole. And I will explain you why, because we were working like that at the hotel for a long time. Let's meet Gary. So Gary is one of the accountants of the hotel. And one day, he went to Gustav because some external company we are not working with were asking a lot of money from us. Because they said that they were able to retrieve, to deliver some pastries from our bakery, which is what should be not possible because we have an exclusive contract with Robert Hitz. So we made some investigation, and we found that there were some scammers there. Like I said, the pastries are really famous, so the competitors of Robert Hitz were really upset when they didn't win the contract with us. But they know that they can make a lot of money with our pastries. So one day, Just Munch, one of the competitors, malicious competitors of Robert Hitz, heavily called our VIPs, claiming they were Robert Hitz. So they get Dimitri on the phone and say, "Would you like a pastry today?" "Oh, I was not expecting you to call me, but why not?" "Yes, I would like a pastry." Why are they doing that? Because they know the whole process, right? They know that they need Dimitri to pass Dimitri to Gustav and then be able to get the order number, the authorization code to open the code lock. So after that, they call Gustav. They say, "I'm Robert Hitz. Do the whole stuff here, authenticate and so on, and give me back the order number at that phone number, please," which is not a real phone number from Robert Hitz, right? And Gustav do the whole process and calls back at that number. And that's why they could intercept, in fact, the authorization code, the order number. And Gustav has been fooled because he has no means to know that that number was really a Robert Hitz one. So to fix that problem, we'll now reference the clients with their contact addresses. So now Gustav will keep a registry of trusted number for Robert Hitz. And now if Just Munch call him and say, "Okay, that's Robert Hitz, call me back at that number," he can check if this is a trusted number to call back Robert Hitz. That's not the case there. "I don't know who you are, bye." And we fix the problem. So the phone number is what we call the redirect URI, and Robert Hitz the client ID. The authorization server keeps a list of authorized redirect URI per client ID, and he has to make sure that he will check if this is an exact match. Because, for example, with a phone number, if the last digit changed, you cannot be sure that you landed into the right company, right? You cannot be sure who is on the phone. So you have to know that since OAuth 2.1, exact match here is a best practice. So they strongly advise the vendors to do here an exact match on redirect URIs to avoid any kind of security issue. Okay, but when does that happen in real life? This is when Facebook redirects you to Google. Okay, here. You have to know that when we do redirection, there is never a direct communication between Facebook and Google. In fact, Facebook sends an order to your browser and say, "Redirect the user to that address." And then the browser redirects you to Google. So when you hit Google, Google doesn't know from where you came. So that's why here, Facebook will place some information in the URL. So I know this is Miro, right? But they never did integrations with Facebook, so that's why you have Miro there. But let's say that this is Facebook, OK? So here you are on the login form of Google. You are on accounts.google.com. And the only mean Facebook have to pass information through redirection is by putting information in the URL. If you take a deeper look here, it will put the client ID. And with that, Google will know that this is Facebook. This is the client ID of Facebook. Great. And to ease the user experience, it will add also where to redirect the user, because it could have been on any page of Facebook, right? OK, so that's how it works. This is the, call me back at that number. But you can see that it's quite easy to intercept as a request. With a screenshot, you have mainly the full request to that kind of authentication with Google. So if I'm a hacker, I can just craft that URL back. And on my malicious website, I can redirect the user to Google with the client ID of Facebook. And Google won't know. And I can just put in the redirect URI here my own address. And if Google doesn't do any check, he will redirect back the user on my website, thinking he will hit Facebook, with the authorization code that was meant for Facebook. And I made an interception. So that's why here you have the exact match now on redirect URI. But it doesn't fix all the problems, unfortunately. Because one day, we had again a fight between two guests, and that time, they both had the same booking reference number. That's weird, right? After some investigation, we found out it came from a prying eyes problem. Let me explain you that. Remember what I said regarding the booking reference number? We are sending that by mail, physical one. We are in 1932. The problem with mail is that you cannot be sure your recipient has received it, right? Because the mail can be lost, right, during the process. Or perhaps the postman delivered the mail to the wrong mailbox. But even worse, you cannot be sure that someone didn't intercept the mail. The postman can just open the letter, read the content, and put that after in the right mailbox. And here, the problem was that the guest was in front of his mailbox, reading the mail, and one of his neighbors was just passing by. He took a look over his shoulder, discovered the booking reference number, and shows up at the hotel with the same booking reference number. So sending stuff by mail is not safe. And this is what we will call a front channel. A front channel is a communication channel where you cannot be sure that your recipient has received your information, and you cannot be sure that someone, didn't intercept it. It means that you cannot share accesses in a front channel. That's way too dangerous. So instead of doing that, we will now deliver the accesses to the guests. You will see this is a process you already know if you have already checked inside an hotel, for example. So let's get rid of that code lock and replace it with a card lock, OK? And now, the guests, they have to go to the receptionist with their booking reference number. And in exchange of that, what will do the receptionist? You know that process, right? Yeah, check the ID, but after that, he give a card, right? He give a card, so the guest can open his room with the card, right? So in exchange of the booking reference number, you will get an access card. And when the receptionist gives you the access card, he's quite sure that this is you who has the card in hand, right? And no one intercepted it during the process. So that's why delivering something by hand here is a back channel. A back channel is a communication channel when you're sure your recipient received your mail, or your information, sorry, and no one intercepted it. OK. So the booking reference number is still the authorization code, but cannot be used to have directly the access, because this is exchanged on the front channel. And the access card here is what we call the access token, which is the real thing that will help you to retrieve the resources. Once you have exchanged the authorization code for an access token, that authorization code will no longer be usable. With that, it will avoid any squatters problem. Because if someone after that comes to the hotel and say, hey, this is my booking reference number, oh no, it has been used already. Okay, so I won't issue an access token, an access card for you. It fixes our squatter problem. So the access token will have its own lifespan. So let's say here it will last until the end of the reservation. In real life, it's something between 15 minutes and 1 hour. The authorization code also has its own lifespan, right? And if one of them expires, you will have to do the whole process all over again by authenticating the user and so on. OK, so to sum up here, the booking reference number was the authorization code, the card, the access token, the mail, the front channel, and the fact that we deliver the access by hand is the back channel. So where does it happen when in the real life? This is when Google redirects you back to Facebook. Because here, it will put the authorization code in the URL. But the problem is, like I said, there is no direct communication between Google and Facebook. So when Google redirects you to Facebook, it will send, like I said, an order to your browser. And if after that the browser crashes, he won't know. So it cannot be sure that the authorization code reached Facebook. It cannot be sure that someone didn't intercept the authorization code. Because maybe you know that sometimes you can have malicious plugins inside your browser. They can scan the URLs and extract the authorization code. So that's why exchanging data through the URL is something that is a front channel, which is not safe. So basically here, this is the example. Usually you have code equal authorization code in the URL. So let's assume that it reached Facebook. So with the authorization code, Facebook has to create a back channel now with Google. In real life, this is a direct HTTPS connection from one backend to another one, or it can be directly from a script, a JavaScript, from the domain of Facebook, inside the browser that is calling Google. HTTPS is synchronous, so you can be sure that your recipient received it, and it's really, really hard to do an interception with HTTPS. It's not impossible, but really, really hard. So that's why HTTPS here is considered as a back channel. So in the back channel, Google will receive the authorization code with the client ID of Facebook, and in exchange of that, he will give back the access token. He's sure that this is Facebook that has received the access token. And with that, Facebook will be able to retrieve your resources. This is what we call the implicit flow. This is one of the main flows of OAuth. Right? There are several flows, but this one is mainly used for web apps. Who use in production implicit flows? Yes? You should not. Because there is a big security hole in the implicit flow. OK. I will explain you what is the problem with the implicit flow. But I will need first 2 volunteers for the rest of the talk for a little demonstration. I will ask those people to come with me on stage, and they should have a smartphone with an internet connection. So who wants to come? Don't worry, it's not dangerous. No one? Yeah, come. Another people? Come on. Don't be shy. Who wants to come on stage? OK. So I will give you some mics here. OK, so what's your name?
Jane.
Jane, OK. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Lucian. Lucian.
OK, get the mic.
Thank you.
So I would like one person to be the bad person and the other one the good person.
I'm the bad one.
OK, you're right, by the way. OK, great. So we'll do a little demonstration on how the implicit flow is broken. So the good person you are rubber hits, right? So you're here to deliver pastries. The bad person, you are just munched, and you have infiltrated the building of rubber hits. So you hear everything, you see everything, right? Because the aim is to come to the hotel and get the access card to open the card lock, right? To be able to retrieve a pastry. Is that okay for you? So you have, could you say me back to your name, please?
Jane.
Jane, okay. So Jane, on the phone you have Dimitri. Since you want me to authenticate him, you call me, you say, this is Dimitri, can you authenticate him, and so on and so on. I'll do the whole process. Then I'm calling you back at your number, and I say, okay, your number is 42. So maybe you said it out loud again to make sure, to confirm me that you really heard the number, and you heard that. Maybe you wrote it down to make sure you won't forget it, and you have seen it. Or maybe you were lazy, you were taking a break, and he picked up the phone when I was calling back. And I cannot be sure that you are not a real employee, right? You are on the phone. So it means that the phone is a phone channel, okay? So you heard that the other number is?
42.
Okay, so you can come to the hotel, come on.
Hello?
So, okay, what do you want?
I want access.
You want?
Access?
Yes, for the pastry, okay. What's the other number?
42.
Okay, so this is the access card.
Thank you very much.
And we are in the back channel, right? So I'm sure this is him who retrieved the access card.
Yeah.
That's implicit
And you are
flow.
outside.
That's the implicit flow. Because with implicit flow, you don't make sure that the initiator is the one to who you granted access, right? And that's why it's broken. So we will change the implicit flow to fix the problem. Okay. Okay, so we will redo the whole thing, and you still have to try to get the access card.
Okay.
I will ask you to scan that QR code, okay? And you tell me when this is ready.
Done.
Okay, I will show you what Jane is looking at. Is that website. Okay. So we are doing the process. You are on the phone with me. You asked me to authenticate Dimitri, but now I will ask you before that to give me the name of one of the hash functions on the left here. Which one?
Whoa. I think I will go with the... I like CRC 32.
CRC 32? Okay.
Yeah, the second position of hash. And
Okay. So this is a hash function, right? Do you know how hash function is working? Yeah. Who doesn't know what is a hash function? Okay, I will explain you. So I will just make a try, okay? Because this hash function I doesn't know, but it works. Okay. So, Jane, I would like you to think about a number, how many digits you want, but keep it secret, right? You'll see this is a magic trick. Keep it secret. How many digits you want. Now, put that number in the input here, and don't look at the phone. Okay? So, for example, here, let's put 42, and please don't use 42.
digit only, right?
Sorry?
Digit only, right?
What you want, in fact.
Okay.
Here, as a result, you will have a hash. An hashing function is a mathematical function which is one way. From the input, you can compute an output, but from the output, it's quite hard to retrieve back the input. The inverse function is mathematically really hard to discover. So now I will ask you to give me the first digit of the hash.
Right? For first digit. Okay. This is 8026.
8026.
Yes.
8026. You heard that, right? 8026.
Yeah.
8026. Otherwise, it won't work for the rest.
I remember that.
Okay. So you heard it, right? So you come to the hotel with me.
Hello.
You're a bit far. Okay. So what was the other number?
8026. 42?
42, please. Yes.
Okay.
42. Okay, great. You were talking about a hashing function. What was that?
So it's a function that takes...
No, but the name of the function is
Oh,
there.
CR32?
Yeah, thank you. And what was the hash again? 8016, right?
26.
26,
Yeah.
great. Can you give me now the magic number, the secret number you thought about? The magic number.
That will generate you A226 at the beginning?
Yeah.
Well, I can brute force, and it will take probably 2 billion years, but not for this function, but...
That's
yeah.
right, that's right.
If you would choose, I don't know, SHA 256, probably in 2 billion years, I could give you.
Yeah, but let's give a guess here.
I don't know, I can...
Just try.
100.
100, like that? Doesn't match. Another guess?
42.
42. It doesn't match, right? So now I'm sure that...
37, yeah.
Yeah, you were not on the phone with me, right? So you are not the initiator of the request, so I can call the security and get out of there. No, you can stay here. You can come now, Jane. So now you're the good person, you want to get the pastry, so I will ask you, what was the secret number?
The whole number?
Yeah.
80260.
No, I mean the secret one in the input.
The input?
Here, what did you type?
Yes, so.
It's camel case. Okay, it's a complicated thing. It's camel case. It's camel.
Camel 34.
Yeah.
Capital C.
So
you cheated. You asked me to say numbers.
Yeah, this one.
Thank you, but it matches, right? And we are on the back channel, so Jane is sure that I was the recipient of that information, which is secret, and I'm the manager of the hotel. So now I'm sure this is Jane who gave me that number, so I can be sure that I can give you the access card, and you are able to get the pastry. Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
You can applaud them. Thank you. Okay. So we improved the implicit flow with a hash function. A hash function, like I said, is something that is one-way. You can get the y from the x, but the inverse is not true. It's quite difficult. So if we have to put some words of vocabulary here, the function is what we call the code challenge method. The x is the code verifier, the secret number for the magic trick, and the y is the code challenge. So you can disclose the code challenge method and the code challenge publicly. It won't hurt, right? Because you won't be able to get back the x with that. Basically, this is a mechanism you may know if you already ordered something on a platform like Amazon. Sometime when your package is expensive, they give you a code, right? And they say, don't give that code to anyone unless this is the delivery person, and never give that code by phone, by mail, or just physically to the people, right? Because that's front channel as well. And the delivery person, when he has the package, he will ask you for that number. He doesn't know the number himself, right? He has just an application. It will put here the code, and if it matches, he's sure that you are the right person to who he has to give the package. That's exactly the same process. So it happens when, in fact, the first time Facebook redirects you to Google, it will also add the code challenge and the code challenge method, the Y and the F. Inside the front channel, that's not a problem. Like we said, it can be disclosed. Google will remember that. And when Facebook will initiate the back channel, he will give the X, the code verifier, the secret number. Then Google will check if it matches with the previous information, if the code challenge is equal to the code challenge method of the code verifier, right? If it doesn't match, he cannot be sure that it was Facebook, the initiator of the request. He won't issue any access code, but access token, sorry. But if matches, yes, he's safe. He knows that he can issue the access token to Facebook, right? So this flow is what we call authorization code flow with PKCE. And it replaces the implicit flow and the standard authorization code we had earlier. This is one of the main best practice of OAuth 2.1, and you should definitely migrate to that flow. It has been invented first for the mobile, and now it has been integrated in the as the main flow of OAuth. OK. I'm not sure we have to do the whole stuff here because it was a bonus, but I would like to talk about the scope a bit. So the thing is that, you know, when you give an access token to someone, he can do everything, in fact. Because if you give access to Facebook, he can retrieve your contacts, right? But he has access to Gmail, right? So he can also have access to your mails. So what we would like to make sure is that when we give access to Facebook, he will be only able to retrieve your mail, your contacts, not your mail. This is why we have the concept of scope in OAuth. So in fact, when Google will ask you, who are you, and give me your credential, it will ask you if you consent Facebook to access your contacts. If you say yes, it will remember that, and then later, when the access token will be issued, it will be only scoped to the contacts, right? So if Facebook tries to retrieve the mails with that access token, because this is the same backend, the same Gmail, it won't work, right? So the access token is scoped to the consent of the user. But there's one thing as well with the scopes. What is, so for example, sorry, I forgot to tell you about that, but this is exactly what you have on your phone. For example, here I was trying to publish a photography from my phone to Twitter, and the OS detected that, OK, here, do you want to allow Twitter to access to your gallery? Yes? OK, so I will allow Twitter to have access to your photography. This is actually exactly the same thing. But there is something you have to know. The scope is there only to grant access to an application, a client. Some people are using the scope to limit the access of an end user. That's wrong. It was not meant to do that. If you want to limit the access of the user, you should use something less like the claims from OpenID. That's another story. But please do not use the scope to limit access of end user on resources. That's not the aim of the scopes. Only limit the access of application with a scope. So here, you have the main website of OAuth 2.1, where you can see all the modification, all the new things they bring with that new version. So you have to know that, in fact, this is not really a new version of OAuth. OAuth has been defined 10 years ago through 80 RFCs. And they all supersede the other in some part and so on. So if you wanted to know what is the actual state of OAuth, it's a nightmare. So they decided to compile everything into a single RFC with everything up to date. And this is OAuth 2.1. So even though this is a draft RFC, this is already implemented by all the vendors, Okta, Auth0, and etc. Maybe you have seen already that they support PKCE, right? So you can go to that website if you want to know more about OAuth. And that's all for me. I hope that you have learned something today and that OAuth is more clear for you. Don't hesitate to meet me after the talk if you have any question. Thank you very much.